Okay, hello. Okay, today I will show you how to start a research. Okay, this is just a suggestion, not a only way. Okay, there are other way to start a research, but this is one of the way. Okay, so basically this is usually in chapter 1 of a thesis where you introduce what you want to do in your research. Okay. So, of course, the first thing you need to do is you come out with a title. Okay, what you want to do. Okay, okay. For this case, I just suggest a ridiculous title. Maybe my research want to be focused on the flying car. Okay, maybe flying car. Okay, after you have a title, then you have to do a background study. Okay. Okay, remember this is usually in the chapter 1 of a thesis, chapter 1 of the thesis or the proposal. Okay, so this one is basically show what you want to do. So background of the study, usually you have to show, for example, for flying car, what is the available car. Okay, for example here you have land car. Okay, you have maybe in the land car you have a 3-wheel, 4-wheel, okay, lorry, okay, something like this. Okay, this is just a background of the study, is just a general, okay, a very general thing. Okay, you want to show what you want to study. Okay, for example, this is a car, so you have to talk about the car. Okay, if you want to research on the PV model, okay, you have to talk about not the detail of the equation of the PV model, but only the what is the function of the PV model, what is the function, where what it is used for, something like that. Okay, for example, this is what is car, where the car is used. Maybe you provide statistic on car usage. Okay, maybe something like that, very general. Okay, this is the background of the study. Okay, but you have to, from the general, okay, as you go on to the next paragraph, you have to be more focused. Okay, more focus on what the method, okay, something like that. Okay, and for the background of the study, okay, you have to provide the reference. Okay, for undergraduate thesis, okay, not the thesis, is actually a report. Okay, final year project report. Okay, I suggest you do around 1.5 page of background study. Okay, background of the study. So this one usually 1.1. Okay. Okay, now we focus on the second part, 1.2. Okay, this is the important part, which is the problem statement. So you have to relate okay, from this background is cars research. There is no car. Okay, no flying car, for example. Okay, something like that. So basically you have to relate the background. Okay, the background is what happened now, and then the problem is you have to tell what is the problem with the current situation. Okay, so from this problem, Okay, this one usually you don't have to insert the reference. They usually just talk about it. Okay, I give you another example as beside the flying car. Okay, for example here, maybe I talk about the control strategy of the PV emulator. Okay, for example. Okay, maybe you have multiple control strategy, strategy A, strategy B, strategy C, strategy B. Okay, you talk about it. Maybe you talk about the advantage, talk about disadvantage, something like that. A very simple one. Okay, and then from that you can talk about the problem statement. The current control strategy is not very good. Okay, A has something like this, B like something like this. Okay, so you have to relate the background with the problem. Okay, that is how you write the problem statement. Okay, for the background, undergraduate, I suggest 1.5 pages. For postgraduate the research type, okay, I suggest more than 4 maybe. This one is depend on you. Okay, you can also put some photo in background of the study. For the problem statement, usually don't have photo. Okay, maybe you can put a table of comparison example, but usually they don't put it. Okay, so problem statement are usually around half a page. Okay, for undergraduate or for postgraduate is around 1.5, something like that. Okay, from the problem statement you have to relate the next thing, which is 1.3 is the objectives of the study. Okay, so in the objective of the study, okay, this one is usually in the paragraph form. Okay, long paragraph. Okay, but objective usually we only use a point form. Okay, from this problem what you want to do. Okay, there is no flying car, so usually to design, okay, usually we start the objective with 2. Okay, to design a flying car, for example, then to simulate a flying car, and then maybe to implement a flying car. Okay, so this one something like this. Okay, this is the objective. Okay, the one more thing you have to know that when it comes to objective, you need to be very specific. To design a flying car using, okay, maybe jet engine. Okay, okay, to simulate the flying car with AAA algorithm. Okay, using BBB approach. Okay, when it comes to objective, you need to be very specific. Okay, then after you complete the objective, then you move on to the next part, the scope of the study. Okay, usually in the scope of the study, you can either choose to use a point form or a paragraph. Okay, if you are my student, I suggest you use a point form for undergraduate. For postgraduate, you can use either. Okay, so example here, simulate using what software. Okay, you can specify. Scope is basically the limitation of your study. Okay, so based on your study, what is your limit? Okay, maybe you have some limitation. Okay, for example, a flying car using jet engine. Okay, what type of car? For example, only a normal car. not PKK. Okay, something like that. This is just your limit. Okay, you have to put the limit here. Okay, implementation, maybe in the simulation, simulate, not only consider ideal situation. For example, something like that. Okay, what is your scope of study? Okay, what you don't mention inside here, you have to mention in the scope. Okay, if it's already in this here, in this objective, you don't need to put in scope. Okay, so that is how you start a chapter 1. Okay, other than that, usually you have to put the methodology. Okay, 1.5 point. Okay, this the 1, 2, 3, 4 is the most important one. Okay, the important one in the chapter 1. This one is methodology. Okay, in 1 point, the methodology in chapter 1 is not the same as methodology in chapter 3. Okay, for chapter 1, it is more on your step to take to do the research. Okay, chapter 3 is the research itself, what you do. Okay, for example, in chapter 1, you talk about you do a LR first, literature review. Then you do the simulation. If fail, then repeat. So maybe before the simulation, you design first. Okay. If you fail, repeat. Okay, repeat design. Okay, and then you have to include the implementation. Okay, so in here you can put a flowchart. Okay, flowchart of your work. Okay, you can put it here. Okay, or Gantt chart. Usually in the Gantt chart is placed in the appendix. You can put it here, but it is better for you to put in the appendix. So this one, the Gantt chart and the flowchart, usually you have to put here. But the Gantt chart is depend on the rubrics. If the rubrics want you to put the Gantt chart, I suggest you put it. Okay, if not, you can put it in appendix. Okay, it is not compulsory. Okay, to put in here. But usually Gantt chart is needed for the project type. Okay, but for research, usually we don't look at the Gantt chart. Okay. So that is the methodology, the simple methodology, the method you use to do the research. Okay, this is different from the methodology in chapter 3. Okay, the chapter 3 is more towards how to implement this. You're going it to more detail. So the design, you do it for more detail. Okay, you don't talk about this one. Okay, the process. You don't talk about the process. You just go into the process itself. Much more detail. That is in the chapter 3. Okay. So usually chapter 1 is something like this. Chapter 2 is the literature review. You have to do the reading of other people's work. Okay. So we move on to chapter 2. Chapter 2 is the literature review. So this one, as I mentioned before, I suggest you find a literature review paper. Okay, if you read the review paper, it is much more easy for you to do the chapter 2. Okay, and then chapter 3. Okay, chapter 3 is the methodology. Okay, but for now, this is much more detailed, not focused on the flowchart or anything. This flowchart is on the chapter 1, but in chapter 3 you focus on the design itself. Okay, on the process, the methodology you mentioned. Okay, how you implement it and everything. Okay, you don't have to overview it again. Okay, so that is chapter 3. And then chapter 4 is the result and discussion. Okay, so this one depend. Okay, usually this is the case, but sometimes they can be a simulation result, and then you chapter 5 is the hardware result. Okay, depend on you. Okay, but usually we just put in chapter 4 results and discussion, and lastly chapter 5 is the conclusion. So conclusion, basically you have to relate the result. Okay, you relate result with with the objective. Okay, you have to relate. Okay, from your design, are you get what you want from the objective? Okay, is the simulation successful? Okay, how you manage to know it is successful or not? Okay, one more thing before I forget. In the objective, you have to mention the quantify value. Okay, you have to quantify your objective. Okay, objective needs to be quantified. Okay, for example, the design of flying jet using engine jet capable of flying to 500 km above sea level, for example, something like that. So make sure your objective is quantify, so you can measure the whether it can measure or not. For example, usually we can consider the efficiency. Okay, efficiency for the power electronic is continuous current mode, ripple factor, something like that. So it needs to be quantifiable. Okay, you need to make sure that is okay. You have to, the objective needs to be quantified so that the result, you can design the result. So result is basically what you relate to the objective quantification. Okay, so I hope you understand the relationship between the objective, okay, objective quantification and the result you have to do. If your objective, if you want to find the efficiency, okay, to design an that have a high efficiency, something like that, your results needs to analyze the efficiency. Okay, if your objective want to know the ripple factor to simulate with the ripple factor something, make sure your result is show the ripple factor. Okay, and then the conclusion is basically you relate back the objective with the result. That's it. And then of course chapter 6 usually conclusion reference. Okay, I already show you how to do the reference. Okay, using a reference manager. Okay, you put here, and then after the reference you put the appendix. Okay, usually you can put the coding, or coding you do Gantt chart. Okay, anything. Okay, anything that relates to the research. Okay, that is how you do the research. So from this you can design the research. Okay, that's it. Good luck. So okay, maybe this one is center. Okay, okay, that's it. Thank you.